Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood tonight. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, September 4th, LA Galaxy. Last time we talked, winners 2-1 over Orlando to get to Concacaf Champions Cup qualification. So they have salvaged the very minuscule little lifeline they had for this particular season. That was it. That was really the only really important thing that they had left. Still have Champions Cup coming up, but we will talk about that whenever that actually happens, because I think we could certainly say a lot about that and whether or not that's a worthwhile tournament or anything else that goes on. So, tournament, it's one game. That's all it is. But the Galaxy, very much channeling their inner George W. Bush with mission accomplished and getting that CONCACAF Champions Cup slot. So we're going to talk a little bit about that particular game. And then we also have the Galaxy heading back to Houston for the second time. Greg Vanney had a great quote today. He goes, I'll paraphrase it, but I'll try to get as close as I can to it, which is, he goes, I'm not a big fan of going back to cities twice in a year. He goes, you can figure out whether or not that's a Houston problem or just a general problem. So I don't know. Maybe Greg Vanney is holding some hostilities against Houston for the way it went last time. But certainly we'll look at that. I heard from Greg Vanney today. I heard from new first team signing LA Galaxy defender Chris Rindol. Have some cool stuff to talk to about him too. So we'll get that going as well. Let me just clue you in on the craziness of which my day has evolved so far. It was let's see. I had work today. I am solo parenting right now because my better half is out doing some business stuff, so she's out of town. So I've been singling it this whole week. Thank God it's a short week because let me just say, my wife does not get enough credit. So of course this week was back to school night, and being we have a youngin, we had to go back to school and do the whole thing. Now back to school. I'm just need to have a small rant. Back to school involved, a window between, 3:45 and 4:25. That was what it was supposed to be. We're going to get out of there, the whole deal, no problems. We did not, and I'm serious, we did not get out of the classroom until 4:45. I think it's great that we got to talk to the teacher. I'm glad that she was receptive enough to answer questions. For all of my fellow parents in that room, you could have done better with your questions. I really feel like you wasted some of those questions. They were not even softballs. They were non-pertinent to anybody else in the room. I swear we almost started playing the hypothetical game, and I'm not. If it would have gone to the hypothetical, if you've never had and been in either a meeting or a place where people are asking questions and they go to hypotheticals, just get up and walk out. But we almost went to hypotheticals. I could feel it inching that way. And then, of course, we had our U7 soccer practice tonight as well, so we were late for that because of everything else. So then I drove over there and grabbed him over here. And, of course, he doesn't really want to play tonight because why would he? So we had to have a conversation about trying hard. And sometimes when things are really tough, that we just have to keep trying hard. And he was having none of that because he was exhausted. He was tired. He had a long day. He has an after school program where they play outside too. So he was done. He didn't want to be there anymore. He was like, I've been outside for like 7 hours today. Get me out of here. So anyway, we made it home. And of course, he wants, all the food in the world. So I emptied the cabinet on that one, made sure he was all good to go. It did include, and by my own admission, 4 of the Hawaiian sweet rolls that he likes with butter on them. So, always quality food here in the Guesman household. And then, of course, he had to take a shower because he's been outside and doing all this stuff. So then I literally sat down at the desk that you now see me at if you're on YouTube, or you're now hearing me at. It is approximately 8:08 p.m. I sat down to get this show ready at about 7:45 p.m. So I just want to set your expectations correctly. Normally, I am Mr. Prepared. Normally, I have graphics out the wazoo. I got everything going. Now, I was on the conference call today. Got to talk to Greg Vanny, got to talk to Chris Rindol. So I'm prepared in that way. I was at the game against Orlando, and I did talk to players after that game, so I'm prepared in that way. But just normally the polish that I like to pride myself on with this show. I mean, even the hair is like going crazy. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, we're gonna get through it together, is what I'm trying to say. So with that said, we shall turn the page for back to school. Appreciate all the teachers out there doing their absolute best with some of these crazy parents. And I'm one of these crazy parents too. I don't know. There's another thing I'd like to point out is that I did have to change. Whenever I talk and do podcasts, and especially whenever I'm by myself, I have fidget things to work on. So this is like a hose connection for something. I don't know. It made its way up here. I have a plastic hose connection. I have a tactile switch that I like to play with sometimes. But the one that is the best one that I play with here is this candle lighter that I brought up here about 6 months ago to light a candle. I think Eric and I were having a seance. We were trying to break the curse for the LA Galaxy. This is one of those little plasma ones, and it's got a little, like, you press the button here. Let me see if I can do it on the microphone. Oh yeah, you get that good. So you press this, the whole deal. I am not allowed to fidget with this anymore because I have burned myself 3 times with it. So we're going to set that over there. That's it. Now we are ready. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad you're excited. If I am working on a live show, if you are a season ticket member, and you might have an idea of where that live show will be. I will be able to announce it fully here, hopefully by the beginning of next week, just going over details and making sure everything's set. But I am here. I'm locked in. Let's talk about it a little bit about the LA Galaxy. And while the graphics won't be perfect, we will at least have some. The LA Galaxy 2-1 winners over Orlando on Sunday, August 31st. This was the 3rd place match. It kicked off at 2 o'clock and it was hot as balls. And that is a technical term in the meteorological field. It was hot. The sun was bright. The field was done, right? I mean, that was my 7th time, I believe, at Dignity Health Sports Park in the month of August. And it was the 9th game, I believe, that they hosted there with all the double headers and everything else. I think I got that correct. So the field had it as well. Still played well. Wasn't a problem. It just, you could tell it was stressed, and it should be stressed with all those games that got played on it. So the LA Galaxy go out there. Goals from Marco Royce, Joseph Paintsel. Big goal from Joseph Paintsel in this one. Marco Royce, by the way, the 9th minute goal, absolutely critical to the LA Galaxy capturing this Concacaf Champions Cup spot. And this was the big thing. This was the thing that we wanted, that the Galaxy had to get. This was absolute bare minimum to try and it's not even save a season, because this season's gone, right? It's gone. See you later. Have a nice day. All that fun stuff. It's not even that part of it. It is the part of that this is one thing that you can look for next year, because as of right now, the LA Galaxy will not play in Leagues Cup. They'll probably have Open Cup because of that, but they won't play in Leagues Cup, so that's out. And now you'll probably get to play an Open Cup, but that's not a huge tournament whenever you look at the amount of teams that MLS has and everything that goes on. Leagues Cup is probably the better of those tournaments whenever it comes to it. And anything else that sort of comes from, there's no Campeones Cup next year, so the tournaments were limited. Now, that cuts both ways. And we'll certainly talk about that as we go through, but that cuts both ways, which is the Galaxy now get to focus on some things. But what they have done for themselves is they've qualified for the Concacaf Champions Cup, the ability to play in that tournament starting in 2026, which means now Will Kuntz and company, Greg Vanny and company will have to put together a roster that's capable of competing in Concacaf Champions Cup. No small feat, especially being it comes at the beginning of the season. But that is all. That's again something to think about for next year. the LA Galaxy get the victory in this game. This was a game they had to have. As a matter of fact, the lineup sort of shows you that they had to have this game. Galaxy very much went back to what I would call sort of their consistent starting 11. There's been some changes with Cuevas in there. There's been some changes with some different players in different spots. Sanabria making more plays in some of that. Having John Nelson start at left back. So it was Joseph Paintsel, Marco Royce, Gabriel Peck up top. It was Diego Fagundes, Edwin Cerrillo, and Elijah Winder. Winder, by the way, had one of his best games as an LA Galaxy player for sure. John Nelson, Amiro Garces, Maya Yoshida, and Miki Yamane. And then it was Novak Mitrovic back in goal. So the Galaxy very much trying to get their front foot forward on this. Orlando having to travel back and forth to LA a couple times in this. If Vanny thought going to Houston was a pain, Orlando was sick of seeing Los Angeles at this point. Orlando definitely with the weight of the travel on their shoulders. You would think that maybe the weather plays into their path maybe a little more than the LA Galaxy, but the travel and the rest and everything else it was, I think, very squarely landed in the box of the LA Galaxy's advantage. And the Galaxy came out and sort of took advantage of that, right? The Marco Royce goal and the ability to get Gabriel Peck in behind and Joseph Paintsel in behind, but Gabriel Peck on the goal, getting, Peck played throughout on the right-hand side to sort of streak down that right-hand side to take players with him and then to be patient enough to find Marco Royce with an intelligent, center channel run. Royce sort of playing the quote-unquote false nine in this, but able to get into the position to do what you needed him to do. He scores the goal. The Galaxy go up 1-0, and that's really where the Galaxy sort of rise to this victory. It is because of the early goal. It is because the LA Galaxy played at what I thought was somewhat tenacious defense at times. Miro Garces coming back into the starting lineup, even though he was far from 100%. We saw some of the frustration from him after he got hurt again. And again, as of right now, Greg Vanny diagnosed that as a bone bruise, and not Greg Vanny, but the doctors have diagnosed it as a bone bruise. So it just got re-aggravated again whenever they were playing against Orlando. So nothing, I think, major from there. Marco Royce had to end up coming out of this game. Miro Garces comes out at this game. So you had Julian Aude, who came into the game, but the Galaxy didn't have any more subs and basically was a limping striker. I don't know if any of you saw Riqui Puig making fun of him after the game when he was limping around, and Aude's like trying to show him his leg and stuff, and Riqui was mimicking. It was pretty funny. Nothing like a sports team to make sure that you stay humble. Everybody's like, "Hey, Julian, great job to gut it out." And Riqui Puig is over there playing the limping game with him. So always fun and exciting to see that. But it was this lineup that sort of set the tone. The big deal for me is that Elijah Winder steps into this lineup because outside of him, this is more of what we saw at the beginning of the year in terms of how they were setting up and what I thought we could expect from that. So you get some advancement again out of a younger player, and I liked Winder. I think I talked to Edwin Cerrillo afterwards, and I said, what is your confidence level in playing next to Elijah, and that, what do you see from him? And I noted, I go, there was a couple times where I think you guys were playing the ball back and forth, and Orlando was sort of like, well, we're going to go get him. And then both of the Orlando players jumped the route at the same time, and Edwin played Elijah into space, and Elijah turned and put a ball back in behind everybody. So if we're looking at the development of players, even just in this game, I thought it was a big step forward for Elijah Winder. The other thing is that just like Colorado, Orlando came out and decided that they were not going to be very competitive in this game. They tried, and they can try as much as they want. And I really think that it is important to sort of see Orlando in that light, which is they were trying, but they didn't have the petrol in the engine here to continue to fight against the LA Galaxy. So seeing the success that you had from Elijah Winder there, that's a situational success right now. But I think everybody's sort of waiting, Greg Vanny included, to see how Elijah continues to step up. And if we're looking down this next, 7 games, however many left the LA Galaxy have here, what you can sort of expect. I talked to Greg Vanny and asked him that question today, is what can we sort of expect from, your goals and what you're trying to accomplish in these last games? And he goes, we can't try to do too much, because when you try to do too much, everything falls apart. He goes, but yeah, he says that there'll probably be some rotation in there and that JT Marcinkowski is going to get some goals. I said this on Discord. I will say this isn't a pervasive thought from the LA Galaxy front office, but I have run into some people who are on the peripheral that talk about JT Marcinkowski as probably the best goalie the Galaxy have right now. And that's nothing to knock Novak Mitrovic. I think, they've obviously invested heavily in him. Greg Vanney said as much today. And, he's going to get his time and do stuff. I just don't think that's as settled going into next year's as maybe people think. And the Galaxy have to decide. Novak Mitrovic is probably still another, 2, 3, 4 years before he hits his prime. So is he going to do that with the LA Galaxy? Or is he going to do that somewhere else? And, would the Galaxy have a chance to move him and possibly recoup some of the money that they spent on him? And does that make sense for the Galaxy to do if you have somebody like JT Marcinkowski? Now, guy's coming off of 18, almost 2 years of not playing. So I certainly think you have to question injury-wise. But if you're looking for a confident keeper that we saw in one game, if you're looking for a guy who controls the box, which we saw in one game, whenever I'm going to say something stupid, I'd like to at least preface it with, basing everything off of one game. I know how ridiculous that is. I just want to make sure everybody knows that I know that. Off of one game, JT Marcinkowski is a very good goalkeeper in this league, has been for a very long time. So it'll be interesting to see how this sort of plays out, but watch for some of that rotation that comes through. In the Orlando game, Joseph Paintsel getting that second goal, and a big shout out to Gabriel Peck, who dribbles down the right hand side and then across the top of the box. And I don't even know how many people he dribbled through. It was 7 or 8. Was never going to get a shot off because it just wasn't in that direction. Eventually, the ball sort of gets stolen from him. The Galaxy back press, turn it over quickly. The ball gets played into Paintsel back across the top of the box, heading in the opposite direction now from the left side. And Joe told me afterwards, he said, I thought about taking a touch, but he goes, no, I just have to hit this first time. And he did put it in the side netting. That's the Joseph Paintsel that, everybody wants. That's the Joseph Paintsel that you need if you're the LA Galaxy. That's the Joseph Paintsel that everybody got used to from the LA Galaxy. If you're around this team, you want to see the Joseph Paintsel that takes no touches and buries it into the side netting on the far post, right? All the things that you want to have happen, Joseph Paintsel made happen for you. That was one of his better games. And again, in a game that means the most this season for the LA Galaxy. This was about just straight out trying to survive this game. Getting the early goal from Marco Reus is huge. Allowing the goal that sort of comes back, and that's not what you want to have happen. But for the Galaxy to take the lead and then hold on to that and sort of put it in that position is a good look for the LA Galaxy. It's not a bad look. Lots of people are going to chime up and say, they don't even deserve to be in this. In fact, I know some reporters who feel that, Leagues Cup is an exhibition match, mostly because the games aren't played in Mexico. I tend to agree in a lot of ways. But if the league sets it up for you and you decide to take advantage of it, then that's what happens. And so now the LA Galaxy on to CONCACAF Champions Cup. Looking at the stats real quick, we can. I mean, that was the wrong one because, see, I still have some of the other ones up for me. Nope, that's not it either. Let's try one more time. We'll get it eventually, I promise. The Galaxy having 57% possession. Orlando 43. Shots for the LA Galaxy 11, and Orlando had 17. But I'll be honest, only 5 of those shots ever went on goal. One of them went in. So you had Mitrovic making 4 saves and doing that he needed to do. And I think he came up big whenever he needed to come up big. This was a game that I thought was more or less in the Galaxy's control. And it wasn't pretty, and it was never going to be pretty. I was joking with some of the players afterwards, and I said, it really felt like after halftime, you guys were going to get 15, 20 minutes of good soccer, and then that was going to be it because everybody was gassed. And they agreed. And certainly if you watch that third place game, it is not something you should brag to your friends about watching. 12,000, 13,000 people in that stadium for that game, which, by the way, there's lots of people who are like, that was the lowest attended game. It's a third place game on Sunday at 2 p.m. I hate to break it to everybody, but that could have been like a championship game. And if it was at 2 p.m. on Sunday, I don't think you get a lot of people. I don't even know that 4 would have really done much for it. Certainly different from how you look at what Seattle did against Miami and 65,000 people up there. I'm just of the opinion that a third place game is going to be a difficult one to do, especially on a Sunday, especially with relatively little notice in terms of, a tournament game. If it was a championship game, I'm sure you would have seen more people there. The people who were there were loud, and, it made the game feel like it was it was something. So certainly if you were there, that was awesome. If you weren't there, I don't blame you. It's just a bad time to sort of be around and hanging out at Dignity Health Sports Park, especially with as hot as it is. And the sun just blasts seats. I mean, 100% sun's almost straight up whenever that game is playing. So you were just toasting everybody as it goes. So anybody who was on the east side of the stadium, God bless you for showing up. I know I think a bunch of people went and moved up into the mezzanine area so that way they could get some more shade, the whole deal. But yeah, with the way the season has gone and with the way Leagues Cup sort of plays and a third place game, I'm not sure you could get people excited for a third place game. And I think that, it was one of those things. So it's an interesting win for the Galaxy. I'll tell you that the players were happy, obviously, with what they accomplished. Nobody by any means, said, and I think some of them were sort of saying, yeah, it rescued our season, but it's always sort of with the reverence to the fact that they know that the league has been an absolute disaster for them this year. There's not one person who wouldn't say that outright if you just pinned them on it. And I don't think anybody needs to understand that. So watching the Galaxy get the victory in this, watching how they were able to get the victory in this, watching Marco Royce have a good game, but coming out injured. He felt a twinge at one point. That was about it. Nascimento did not make the roster. He's still dealing with stuff. Greg Vanney was talking today. They possibly had to drain something like a hematoma that they had to drain or something like that. So we're still expecting that this is a groin issue and that it's going to take a little while. And so maybe you have to park him for a little bit for the rest of the season. I don't know if there's any hurry there. Royce comes off, Aude comes off. I think Royce and Aude weren't out at the public training. I'll tell you somebody who was at public training though. And that was Mr. Riqui Puig. So Riqui Puig was out and training with the team. However, Greg Vanney certainly indicated today that he did go out and do the rondos, the little small-sided warm-ups that they do. He was doing some of the rondos, and then after that, he went off and worked to the side again. We're not seeing Riqui at full training yet. It's funny. I hear like differing reports. It's always, I don't tell you guys everything. Trust me. You don't want to know everything. You think you do, and then you sit there and go, oh, well, that completely contradicts the other thing. I have people telling me he's not close. I have people telling me he's ready to go, the whole deal. I think we're going to stick with the official party line from Greg Vanney today, which is he will be back when the doctors decide that he is ready, and they have not given him that clearance yet. He does have some more tests to go through that he could start, if he passes those tests, start being more inclusive of training. But, I certainly don't think that there's going to be nobody is in any hurry to get him back. So no, I wouldn't expect that he just shows up in Houston. Some people were saying that. I was like, nope, that's not going to happen. And whether they play him or not play him at this point for the LA Galaxy is I think that if he's ready to go, you come back and you give him some game time because I think that's important. And Greg Vanney mentioned that when a player has a goal, that you want to honor those goals, right? So it's sort of like you're trying to work to get back and you want to get back on the field, then we need to make that available to you. Roster freeze deadline coming up. I believe that unless they get Riqui Puig an international slot and he's on the roster, I don't think that they can add him. There's no mechanism I know of. The side caveat to that is technically he's on the roster. He's just out right now as an injured player, and so therefore doesn't take up an international slot. The Galaxy still would need to free up an international slot. I think it's important. I think that if you don't get him some games in this, then now you're talking about him being off for another 3 or 4 or 5 months. I think that in the mind of Riqui Puig, you want him sort of being like, yeah, I'm back before you hit that break, but there's certainly not going to be any hurry here. If he has to sit through the off season like the rest of us, then he'll be, it'll be fine. But it's just going to be, in my opinion, I think you waste a lot of, sort of the preseason with the idea of can Riqui get back or can he even, and how much of the preseason is Riqui even going to play, right? Like you would already probably be limiting his minutes whenever you're looking at what he's coming back for. So I think in Ricky's mind, it's important to get him gone. By the way, if you see any of his Instagrams and TikToks, dude's been playing golf. Like we've discussed that I worked at a golf course in college, right? Like I was actually a decent player, not by any means like a good player. There were people, I will never be as good as some people are just naturally. But I know golf. It's one of those things that I could do. I probably couldn't do a podcast on golf, but I guess if you immersed me in it again and I could follow around the tour and do all that stuff, I guess we could do it. But Riqui Puig is a stick. Dude could flat out play. Just throws darts. Way better golfer than I've ever been. 100%. And so he's out there just, throwing wedges over the tops of flags and doing the whole thing. And he's playing at different country clubs and stuff like that. Ricky's living the Southern California, like summer life. He's doing fine. But it is one of those things that it's sort of like you can see his activity level starting to increase and all the things that he can do and that type of thing. So I think we're getting close there. And I think if you're the LA Galaxy, I think you still want to bring him in. We mentioned Nascimento and the injury. Popo Zao, $5 super chat says, Josh, do you think Nascimento is enough for next year, or do you keep Ramirez to see how he meshes with Riqui or look into the market? Yeah, I think Ramirez's contract is up. Let's see if I can bring it up because we were talking about this last time. If I remember correctly, Ramirez's contract is up. I believe that they may have an option, but even that option right now, at least on my chart, shows me 2025. So there may have been an option in there that the Galaxy were able to the Galaxy picked up whenever they got Christian Ramirez from, I believe, Columbus. And so however that works right now, the LA Galaxy seem to have a decision to make on Christian Ramirez. Here's the thing. It's interesting because I think we had this discussion whenever it was Dejan Joveljic, right? And you were sort of like, hey, the big problem I think for the LA Galaxy is that they have to make a decision on a purchase or not. And have we seen enough from Nascimento this year? Let's flip the question a little bit. Have we seen enough from Nascimento this year that you're convinced that the Galaxy should buy him? That's the first question. Is he around next year? And you have to make that decision now, basically. What do you think of Nascimento? Can you get him on another loan? I think that would be a lot to ask for him to come on another loan. But do you want to try and develop him as a U22? Do you think that there's enough tools there? There's hints. Much like whenever Dejan was playing, there were hints, right? We sort of saw it, and it's less. We're seeing less than what Dejan was showing, 100%. Dejan Joveljic out there tearing it up with Sporting Kansas City, by the way. So there's less for me. I think it's way less. Having said that, I think that there's moments and points that Nascimento. Well, here's the other flip side of that, right? Is that if you're going to have a starting 11 right now, you start Nascimento because he's the best 9 that you have. Galaxy still have to decide whether or not that means that they are going to purchase him or not. He's on loan. That has to be decided this year, unless they can figure out a way to extend that. So are they convinced that Nascimento is the guy? And if they are, that's cool. Then they buy him. And then you also, I don't know that you bring Ramirez back, but I think you go out and you look, you're going to have to find somebody. You have to look at guys like Miguel Berry and whether or not he's going to play a role. Love Miguel Berry, by the way. Still a great locker room guy. Whether or not that's the position that they can sort of fill at Ramirez. Ramirez makes some money. He wasn't cheap, and the Galaxy either underutilized him or he couldn't fit into how it was. I'm not sure which it looks like. I'll tell you, at times I never thought, oh, good. And by the way, this is a mean thing to say. I 100% acknowledge that it's a mean thing to say. But ask yourself if whenever Christian Ramirez came on the field, if you thought, oh yeah, now the Galaxy are going to score. And again, is that an underutilization? Is that Greg Vanney not figuring out how to use him? Is that the LA Galaxy players not figuring out how to feed and use him? Because really Ramirez is a number 9 and he's a pretty smart one. So how did you not? And I'll be honest, unless you're playing Cuevas all the time, I don't know that Christian Ramirez is going to get the service that he needs to be able to do the stuff that he wants to do. So if the Galaxy aren't going to serve him, then it feels like it's a Galaxy problem that they underutilized or they didn't understand how to get the ball to Christian Ramirez. But I mean, we watched the Galaxy go winless in 16. We've all seen the ineptness from this team and perhaps from Greg Vanney in this as well. How do you get Christian Ramirez activated? Or is it just the time that Ramirez is done now? At what, $570,000? That's a pretty good chunk. That is salary cap money there. So it is something that you would expect that the Galaxy could possibly, move away from whenever they're done this year. So does Christian Ramirez come back? And if he's not the answer, you go out and you find somebody else. I mean, this is nothing that Will Kuntz doesn't know. He's been working on this stuff now for months. They will have their list of people. I imagine it's already done. I imagine they're already ready for it. I imagine that they have this list and they're going to start picking things off and sort of say, okay, let's figure out how this works. And let's get that going. So you look to me, is Nascimento? I don't know. I think it's a question mark. And if it's a question mark, can you buy on a question mark? You have to be real sure that you see the path forward for Nasi. That being said, I've seen spurts. If it's me making the decision, I'm going to have to sit there with it for a while. I'm going to have to hear the data. I'm going to have to see the things that, that we sort of see and have the talks. You have Will Kuntz who's in there listening to guys like Gordon Kleshtin and what I want to say his name, Michael Dencher, right? It's Mikhail Dencher, I believe. If I'm correct, if I'm mispronouncing it, somebody will let me know next time I see him. So, but you have to go in there. You have your analytics guys who come in there and tell you what they see from Nascimento, and you have to work up a plan of how he's going to be effective. Because if you hang your hat on Nascimento next year in the Galaxy, I've been sold the magic beans for next year, which is the Galaxy will be a better team. That they have more room on the cap, that they have more flexibility, that this is sort of the start of building sustainably and having a sustainably built competitive team from year to year, right? Trying to get back to sort of what Seattle's doing. By the way, Seattle's getting so much hype right now. I just would like to know that us on the podcast, we were with that Seattle hype earlier, right? When they beat the Galaxy 4-0, you were sort of like, oh yeah, the Galaxy weren't good, but Seattle just made them pay. And then watching them beat them 2-0, it was like that game could have been a lot worse. Seattle made that game closer. And then watching them just destroy Miami, I wasn't surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised, by the way. I think the only people were surprised were like Luis Suarez for some reason. I heard he apologized for spitting on the Sounders. I think one of their security guys. Multi-game suspension should happen. Both him and I think Jordi Alba causing all sorts of problems after that game. MLS, grab some balls, suspend them. That's what's supposed to happen. Yes, the Leagues Cup will suspend them inside of Leagues Cup, and that's great. But whenever there's serious enough, problems, then MLS, stop coddling. All right, that was a ridiculous display. Get beat 3-0 and then whine about it. Man, every once in a while you're glad that you're not covering some other teams. I'm glad I wasn't covering Miami. There's no way you talk about that respectfully after the game. Just a bunch of morons out there, really talented morons, right? Just watching that whole thing, watching Seattle just dominate. So again, I was discussing Seattle with some other people, and they're peaking too soon. It was a hammer thing. Don't peak too soon, right? The LA Galaxy peaking just at the right time in the third place game of the Leagues Cup this year, it feels like. So that was there. One of the big deals, of course, today was that the LA Galaxy signed defender Chris Rindol. And we actually... we got to talk to Chris, or I got to talk to Chris after the Orlando game because he was playing really well, right? And what a cool dude that is. I would just like to say, it's nice whenever you get some of these guys. This is a guy who was drafted 2 years ago in the MLS Super Draft by Sporting Kansas City, played at SKC2, got some time there, then went up and got like throwaway minutes, he told us, at Sporting Kansas City, and then was free. All right, so was free. He was unattached. There was nothing sort of there for him. And we watch how the Galaxy went out and sort of went and got him, right? And it was Gordon Kleshtin. I got to speak to Gordon just via text earlier today, just because Chris mentioned that Gordon called over and said, hey, why don't you come to the LA Galaxy? And Gordon sort of said that he had to convince Chris because Chris was looking for first team minutes, right? And rightfully so. I understand it. By the way, University of Maryland, go Terps, Fear the Turtle. As I've talked about, that's my adopted team. My wife went there. And of course, Chris Rindol now continuing the Terps at center back craze that the LA Galaxy have gone through. I mean, there's pretty good signs whenever you have a Terp at center back for the LA Galaxy. AJ and Omar know all about that, right? So, but sort of getting him to that spot is pretty cool to see Chris Rindol sort of graduate to that, right? Get all the way up there in the whole deal. By the way, the LA Galaxy signed him through the end of the 2026 season, so next year with club options for 27 and 28. He just heard everything just got finalized yesterday, as he told us. There's some interesting stuff here. We saw on Sunday that if you got there early and maybe the season ticket gates weren't even open yet, or maybe the full stadium wasn't open, but I was in there with Damian Calhoun, who was sitting next to me, and he goes, here comes Chris Rindol. And we're like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And he comes out onto the field. There's nobody else out there. It's an empty field. There's no cones set up. There's nothing. Like, we're talking early. So he got to the game, that game around 12, right? So 2 hours fully before. And he went out and he sort of does this visualization where he visualizes both the defensive and offensive sides for him. And he likes to do that. He walks in the box. You see him making his moves. He's sort of facing in the directions. He's looking for outlets and different things, but he's a visualization guy. Apparently I think that started in college with him when he was working under Sasha over at University of Maryland. So you're like already there, like, that's pretty unique. To a person, I've heard this now 3 times. Chris Rindol is the first person at the club every single day, and he's the last player to leave every single day. That's it's cliche in that you work hard and you get rewarded, but Chris Rindol is putting in the time and doing his stuff to get there. I think he seems to be a very capable center back. We'll see what he does. He seems to be unfazed, quite honestly, by being in Major League Soccer, and maybe that should surprise us, and maybe it shouldn't. The Galaxy certainly think that locking him down now is a smart thing for them to do. They're going to do it. I imagine he's on a supplemental roster right now. So I don't imagine there's any salary cap implications, but we'll have to wait to sort of see where that lands off. But Rindolph comes there. The other part of his routine after he's done with the field stuff is that he goes back to the locker room, and in things I never thought I would say on this, is he listens to, some sort of track, whether that's music track or whether that's like an affirmation track or whatever it is, but it's a little under 4 minutes. And then he sits there with a Rubik's Cube, and he tries to solve the Rubik's Cube 4 times while he's listening to this. It helps him lock in. This is amazing to me. And I did make the joke on the press conference today because Damian Calhoun was asking about it. And I go, Chris, the reason that Damian's asking you about that is he's never solved a Rubik's Cube once in his life. By the way, neither have I. Never solved a Rubik's Cube in my entire life. I'm thinking about buying one. Maybe Rindolph can give us some pointers. Maybe I know there's a way to do this. I see there's a method to the madness. But Rindolph is in there before the game solving a Rubik's Cube 4 times. It just creates this legend, right? You're just sort of seeing what he's doing and how he's going. So I really hope it pays off for him. But Gordon Kleshin says that he found out he was free. He called him up and he said, I had to convince him to come to G2. He goes, because he wanted first team minutes. I'm like, you have to we want you on G2 and you'll get your shot. If you're good enough, if you train hard enough, you'll get your shot at playing with the LA Galaxy. I could tell a sense of pride in just what Gordon was sort of telling me about Chris Rindolph. So listen, Sasha over at the University of Maryland has been doing this for like 30 plus years. The guy just makes pros. I will say that you get a University of Maryland soccer player and they make good pros. Let's see if that continues. I think everything is going right for Chris Rindolph right now. Everything happened like yesterday where they finally signed everything. Everything was done, the whole deal, getting it knocked out. And I imagine Rindolph is going to play down the stretch. I think there's going to be some of the guys who play. I think you're going to see more of the Parentes. I think you're going to see more of the Cuevases. I think you're going to see more Sanabria and more Winder, but in spurts. I think everybody's going to play the kids and screw everything out. It's not going to be like that. I think there's going to be some mixes and some matches and trying to get those guys into the proper headspace and the proper ability to play, right? Just in terms of, I'm trying to think, but like you don't want to just send them out to the wolves, right? Adam, $5 super chat is the live show for everyone or only for season ticket members? Only for season ticket members right now. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. So that's where I sort of see how things are going to play out in these last, handful of games. The Galaxy, for their part, getting ready to head to Houston, 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. I believe that kick is going to be at 5:40 p.m. I believe I even have my schedule here. Let's see if we can get the schedule and tell you exactly what time that game kicks off. 5:40 p.m. There you go. Yeah, just making sure that I got the correct one. 5:40 p.m. It's going to be your kickoff time for this game. Again, I told you Greg Vandy was sort of like, I don't want to go back. Like, I don't like going to places 2 times. The LA Galaxy in their last 3 matches against Houston, 1-1 draw on 4/12/2025, so earlier this year at home. And then the LA Galaxy, of course, got beat by Houston the very last game of the regular season, 2-1, thanks to Dan Stairs on October 19th, 2024. That kind of led to their MLS Cup run, if you remember correctly. Didn't win the Western Conference, but ended up winning MLS Cup. I think they'll take that every time. And then the last time before that was in 2024 when the Galaxy upset Houston at home. Looking at just the season stats, Ben Olsen over in Houston likes to have the ball. Maybe not as much as the LA Galaxy like to have the ball, but whenever you flip that and sort of put the LA Galaxy on the road, I would imagine that as long as they can, unless they score first, the Galaxy, that you will see them have a lot of the ball. So we'll sort of watch how that goes. Houston is a team that is in 10th right now. They're trying and fighting like crazy in order to get up into that, 9th position. So a win gives them 3 points, depending on what San Jose does. That could possibly push them back into the playoff position. So a big game for Houston, and of course a makeup game during an international break and all that. Joseph Paintsel not going to be playing, misses out, I believe. The report that I read was that, and I'll see if I get this right. He missed out on the game versus Chad. Because there was a delay in his Los Angeles flight, and that made him miss a connection in New York. And then whenever he eventually got on the plane in New York and made it to wherever he was trying to land, whether that was in Ghana or somewhere else, he had missed the plane that was going to the game, I believe against Chad, and so he's going to miss that game. However, he will be available for the game against Mali, but bottom line is he's gone. Joseph is gone. I think Harbor Miller is gone and has come back. So Harbor Miller will be available. Other than that, I think Greg Vandy said there were no other internationals that he was worried about in terms of leaving. So it's a big chance for the LA Galaxy to get something. The other part about this is that the Galaxy are now just 2 points away from climbing out of the basement in the Western Conference. Now the team they're chasing in the Western Conference is St. Louis, and St. Louis will play and host Dallas on Saturday. These are all the games I'm showing you right now. It's DC United versus America. Hey, remember, the season could be bad, and then you could be playing a friendly in the middle of, or at the beginning of September at Audi Field. So it was DC United and America. It's Houston and the LA Galaxy. It's Chicago hosting the New England Revolution, and St. Louis hosting Dallas. Then on Sunday, it is Kansas City hosting Austin. A lot of these are makeup games from other times when things did not go very well. QM Brew. So you're saying if we beat Houston this week, our path to MLS Cup is set for the year? Ghana can't provide a private jet for JB. That's what I was like. Listen, I know that the flight, frequencies aren't as common as they are here in the United States. I'm sure that's certainly it. And who knows, maybe even the flight from New York to Ghana only happens like once a day, and you have to be on that one. If you miss that one, there isn't another one, right? That could certainly be the case. But I was like, man, can't you get somewhere else? Can't you work your way around that? So he's trying. So he'll get there and he'll play. We can look in the Eastern Conference and sort of look. DC United has been eliminated from the play. See the little E's next to this? So Montreal's been eliminated from the postseason. DC United has been eliminated from the postseason. Galaxy lose this game against Houston, I would be very surprised if there isn't an E next to them. But as of right now, you have two teams, San Diego and Minnesota, who sit at the top of the Western Conference. They have both clinched those playoff berth, so we don't know where they're going to stand, but they have clinched the ability to make sure that they're going to the playoffs. San Diego, if you were watching after the Galaxy beat Orlando, San Diego went up and beat LAFC. That was after LAFC scored first in that game, and that was at BMO. So that was a big statement win for them. So 56 points for San Diego, 19 points for the LA Galaxy, just in case you wanted to go from riches to famine all the way there on either side. But the Galaxy just 2 points now away from St. Louis. A win against Houston, a loss for St. Louis. The Galaxy would jump them. We'll sort of keep our eyes on that because that's the spoon race right now. 24 points 24 points on the Eastern Conference side, so the Galaxy still 5 points low from them. So right now it is St. Louis who is clearly in front of them, and that game is coming up this weekend. I would expect, 1, no Joseph Paintsel, 2, no Marco Royce. I'm guessing that they're going to be way more selective with when they decide to play Marco Royce the rest of the season. Julian Aude, I would imagine probably not available. Nascimento not available, right? There's going to be guys who basically just barely survived the Orlando game that aren't going to play in this Houston game. Do with that what you will. Obviously, you're going to plug in some younger guys to sort of play in there, and when you do that, there's always the ability for them to surprise and for them to spur on a surprise LA Galaxy win. Having said that, I think you're asking a lot for the Galaxy to go into Houston and try to beat Houston after Leagues Cup and everything else and with the injuries they have and all that. So I don't know that I would be super excited for the game coming up. Let's check the weather because, there's nothing I like more than checking on the weather. And when we check on the weather, we get to see whether or not it's going to be bad again. Oh, did I not have Houston in this? That's ridiculous. Boys and girls, how do I not have Houston on my... Let's type it in right now. Houston is popping up. I worry about me sometimes. Let's see. Okay, 92 degrees on Saturday. 76 is the low. I'm going to imagine that the humidity is high because it's Houston. The Galaxy's sort of playing in that later. So maybe 86, 85, right around there for the high. It doesn't look like there's any chance of thunderstorms right now. We don't want to say that too loud. It doesn't look like there's... Here, I'll do my ventriloquist. It doesn't look like there's any thunderstorms right now. Okay? Let's just keep that between us. But as with anything, moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico can certainly still cause problems. And so that could pop up. So we'll watch that. But the worst thing that could possibly happen is the Galaxy go there and then there's like thunderstorms again. So let's just think happy thoughts on that. I think that's it. I'm looking at all the other notes that I have and sort of, where the LA Galaxy are and what's going on. The CONCACAF berth was big and it means very little this year, but it'll mean more next year. And when it gets to next year and you're all excited because, hope springs eternal and everything, there's been new players and new things that have happened, and the LA Galaxy are trying to put together this new roster of players. I believe I have 9 players who are out of contract, but there's others that I don't think will be coming back. So we can start talking about that a little bit more as we go forward. But as you look at, as that starts next year, as the Galaxy head out and play at Coachella and do that sort of thing, your eyes are going to be firmly focused on Concacaf Champions Cup. And that's going to hit first. It's going to hit hard. And the Galaxy, by way of how just horrible they've been, I don't expect them to have a great standing in the CCC. So they're going to have to go away and play places that they don't want to go. But that's going to be front and center. And how quickly can the LA Galaxy gel with whatever they're going to do? And how competitive can they be in CONCACAF Champions Cup? Those are the questions that have to be answered now over the next, let's see, we're in September, over October, November, December, and then when you get into January, right? So there are basically 5 months until that happens. Soccer never stops, especially in Major League Soccer and everywhere around the world, really. But it always feels like in Major League Soccer that even whenever you get eliminated early, you still have a lot of work to do. I do think the Galaxy, that will help them a little bit in terms of trying to find what they're going, but they also have to wait for the season to end before they can start bringing in different pieces and doing things. They have to wait for windows to open and all that. So I think there's going to be some big question marks about that. We're going to try to get some more of the LA Galaxy front office on so we can start answering those questions. And as we do that, I think we're going to be, more informed because of it to sort of see which direction they want to go and how it goes. But the LA Galaxy facing off against Houston this weekend is a test only in as much as the Galaxy try to claw their way out of being in the basement and winning the wooden spoon. That's really the only big thing to sort of accomplish. Sure, Champions Cup is going to be something. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be a game. There's going to be an emphasis put on it by the LA Galaxy that, quite honestly, in my opinion, will be way overhead of what it actually means. But in order to get the team up for what they want, I understand why they say that. But right now, it's going to be trying not to win the wooden spoon. That's probably the bigger reward than maybe Champions Cup. Yes, you'll get a trophy. Yes, you can't take trophies out of the cabinet once you win them. Maybe I don't know if the Clippers won any trophies, because I was going to think maybe those could come out because they can join the Cheaters Club along with the Miami and the Galaxy right now, and many other teams as they try to circumvent a salary cap. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? That's a very MLS thing of the Clippers to do. So we'll watch that as it goes. Anything else? Any other questions? Random just says, I want to see a lot of Harbor, Lepley, Cuevas, Rindolph, Winder, and Nasi. Need to find out if they can play. We'll see. Yeah, let's call it. The LA Galaxy taking on Houston coming up on Saturday. Again, that game at 5:30, 5:40 is your kickoff time. MLS Season Pass on Apple TV is where you're going to find that. I will, of course, join you from my perch right here. Actually, this is where I watch games too. So always a good time on a Saturday night. So we'll get going with that. Other than that, super busy September coming up for me. So we'll see how we can sort of navigate the rest of this month. I feel like this month is going to go by in a flash. So don't blink. Galaxy have some games. Certainly we'll watch that as they play, and we'll be here to get them. Hammer, by the way, sends his apologies. I'm going to blow the lid off this and just go ahead and breaking news. He went to the Jonas Brothers concert and came down with, a cold. I don't think anybody's surprised, by the way. It's funny because I thought you just got herpes at the Jonas Brothers concert, but maybe that's just me. But the Hammer was down and out, so couldn't join us tonight. I did not plan on doing another solo show, but I'm kind of glad it ended up that way because, trying to coordinate the technology on the other side of that while we were trying to do everything today would have been a nightmare too. So I hope everybody's doing good. I hope your back to school is wonderful. I hope the kids are enjoying it. I hope if you don't have kids, you notice that the roads are busier because everybody's taking their kids to school. But it is that season for learning right now, and we're definitely trapped in it in every way. So enjoy your soccer games this weekend. Enjoy all the stuff. And again, I'll be on all the socials to sort of get you through the LA Galaxy's game against the Houston Dynamo coming up on Saturday. All right. Yes, good enough. All right. If you're looking for me, and God, you should, let me just tell you, the tweets that come out of this guy right here, awesome. At Galaxy Podcast on any of those social media places. That's where you can find it. Go check those out at Galaxy Podcast. CornerOfTheGalaxy.com is, of course, where you can find all of our shows. Anything else that we decide to put up will be on CornerOfTheGalaxy.com. And then go to YouTube and like and subscribe. You go on Spotify and you subscribe. You go on Apple iTunes and you subscribe. You do all those things, and when you're done, you will get a cookie. Probably not from me, but somebody will eventually give you a cookie and it'll be great. That about does it. LA Galaxy, Houston Dynamo coming up on Saturday. Hope you enjoy that game. We'll be back on Monday. See if we can wrestle with Kevin Baxter maybe, or if he's still doing Dodger stuff, or maybe Damian Calhoun. We'll figure it out. But we'll be back on Monday with the show for you. For everybody here at Corner of the Galaxy, I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.